Leon Mercer stared through the viewport as the diplomatic vessel descended toward the crystalline metropolis of Nilax Prime. Violet oceans surrounded the continent, reflecting the system's twin suns. After 3 years of devastating war between the Human Confederation and the Nilaxian Empire, he represented humanity's last hope for peace. "Final approach, Ambassador," the pilot announced. "Atmospheric entry in 30 seconds. Leon straightened his formal uniform, midnight blue with silver trim designating his diplomatic status. At 34, he was young for such a critical mission. But his reputation for unconventional solutions had made him the Council's reluctant choice. Remember, General Hayes had warned during his briefing. Empress Zor agreed to these talks only after we lost the Proxima system. Don't mistake diplomacy for weakness. The Nilaxians are predators to their core. The ship settled onto a landing platform extending from a towering spire. A delegation waited, their forms rigid and ceremonial. Among them stood a figure that commanded attention without effort, Empress Talia Zor herself, her presence unexpected and unsettling. Leon descended the ramp with measured steps. The Nilaxian atmosphere was thicker than Earth's, carrying scents of unfamiliar minerals and flowering plants. He approached the waiting delegation and bowed precisely as protocol demanded. "Empress Zor," he said in carefully practiced Nilaxian, "I bring greetings from the Human Confederation." Talia stepped forward. Her skin was a rich purple-violet that seemed to capture the light in subtle iridescence. Silver markings traced elegant patterns down her temples. Her eyes, completely black except for violet irises, studied him with unnerving intensity. "Ambassador Mercer," she replied in perfect standard English, her voice melodious yet commanding. "Your reputation precedes you. The negotiator who ended the Centauri blockade without firing a shot? You're well-informed, Empress. Knowledge is survival." She gestured toward the spire. "You've traveled far. We've prepared quarters. Negotiations begin tomorrow at first light." As they walked, Leon observed her carefully. The stories portrayed Thalia Zor as ruthless and calculating, the military genius who had outmaneuvered human forces in 3 major engagements. Yet he sensed something beneath her imperial composure, an awareness that seemed to evaluate multiple possibilities with each passing moment. The delegation entered a vast hall where crystalline pillars soared upward, catching light in mesmerizing patterns. Attendants guided him toward his quarters, but Thalia raised a hand, stopping them. "A moment, Ambassador," she said. "Understand this. I agreed to these talks because continued conflict serves neither of our peoples. But peace requires truth, not diplomatic platitudes." Leon met her gaze directly. "Then we share that conviction, Empress. I didn't come to exchange empty words." Something flickered in her expression. Surprise, perhaps. "We shall see, Ambassador Mercer. Until tomorrow." As he settled into his quarters overlooking the alien city, Leon reviewed his mission parameters. Secure a ceasefire. Establish communication protocols. Begin resource negotiations. Nowhere in those instructions had anyone warned him about the magnetic presence of Empress Thalia Zor, or the intelligence that radiated from her like heat from a star. For the first time since accepting this assignment, Leon wondered if he might be outmatched not by Nilaxian military might, but by their enigmatic ruler herself. The negotiation chamber was a marvel of Nilaxian architecture, a perfect dome with walls of translucent crystal that shifted colors with the movement of the twin suns. Leon sat across from Thalia, her advisors flanking her like sentinels. Chief among them was Commander Rex, whose scarred face and openly hostile glare made his feelings about humans abundantly clear. "Your proposal is inadequate," Thalia stated, her violet eyes fixed on the holographic map between them. "The demilitarized zone you suggest would leave the Kelder mining outposts vulnerable." "The Confederation is willing to establish joint security protocols," Leon countered. "We've drafted an oversight committee structure that words," interrupted Commander Rax. "Human words while your fleet repositions near our outer colonies." Leon maintained his composure. "I assure you, any military movements are defensive only." Thalia studied him with that unnerving intensity. "Perhaps we should adjourn for today." Ambassador Mercer might appreciate seeing what he's attempting to negotiate for. Without waiting for response, she rose and gestured for Leon to follow. They departed with only 2 guards, leaving her advisors visibly unsettled by this breach of protocol. Their transport skimmed low over the metropolis, eventually reaching the outskirts where elegant spires gave way to utilitarian structures. They entered a medical facility where rows of injured Neeloxians filled the recovery chambers. "The aftermath of your defensive strike on Valeri's station," Talia explained, her voice controlled but tinged with emotion. "Civilian researchers? Medical personnel." Leon's stomach tightened. "Our intelligence indicated it was a weapons development facility. Your intelligence was wrong." She turned to him, close enough that he could see flecks of silver in her violet irises. "This is why words without understanding are meaningless." As they returned to the palace, Leon noticed Thalia's guard becoming alert, her hand moving subtly toward her weapon. Moments later, an explosion rocked the adjacent tower, sending crystalline fragments raining down around their transport. "Evasive maneuvers," Thalia commanded as the craft lurched sideways, barely avoiding a second blast. The pilot executed a sharp dive. Taking them beneath the skyway traffic, Leon instinctively moved to shield Thalia as the transport shuddered under another impact. Their eyes met in a moment of mutual surprise at his protective gesture. Later, in the secure command center, Commander Rax pointed an accusatory finger at Leon. "Convenient timing for the human's presence, wouldn't you say?" "If I wanted to assassinate your empress," Leon replied coldly, "I wouldn't be in the same vehicle." Thalia silenced them both with a gesture. "The attack bears the signature of the Crimson Helix, a radical faction opposed to any peace with humans." "We have similar elements," Leon admitted. "Not everyone wants this war to end." Security footage played across monitors. Leon noticed a transmission code flickering briefly in the corner of one screen, a Confederation military encryption. His blood ran cold. Later that night, Leon encrypted a message to his superiors demanding explanation, then deleted it before sending. Someone was playing a deeper game, and until he knew who, trust was a luxury he couldn't afford, not even with his own government. Soft chime at his quarters interrupted his thoughts. The door slid open to reveal Thalia, dressed in simpler attire than her formal regalia. "Walk with me, Ambassador," she said. "These walls have too many ears." Under the light of 3 moons, in the imperial gardens, where ancient trees from a dozen worlds grew together, Talia spoke candidly. "There are factions within my court that would sacrifice millions to maintain power. I suspect your confederation suffers similar disease." Leon watched the moonlight play across her features. "You didn't bring me here to tell me what I already know." A hint of a smile touched her lips. "No, I brought you here because against all reason, Ambassador Mercer, I believe you actually want peace." Days blurred into weeks as negotiations progressed in public, while Leon and Talia conducted their own private investigation. They established a pattern formal, often contentious discussions during official sessions, followed by clandestine meetings where they shared discoveries about the forces working against them. Tonight they met in the ancient library, a repository of knowledge predating even Neeloxian spaceflight. Leon traced his fingers over star charts, while Thalia accessed classified communications on a secure terminal. "General Hayes has been diverting weapons to the Orion mercenaries," Leon said quietly. "The same mercenaries who provided intelligence about Valeria's station." Talia's expression hardened. "And Commander Rax has been meeting with representatives from the mining consortium. They've quadrupled profits since the war began." Leon moved closer, lowering his voice. "We're being played against each other. It's our people have been for generations." Dahlia's gaze met his. "The question is what we do with this knowledge." Something had shifted between them, a respect that had grown into trust, and perhaps something more dangerous. Leon found himself noticing things he shouldn't. The graceful movement of her hands as she spoke. The subtle changes in her voice when they were alone. "We expose them," Leon suggested, "simultaneously, on both sides." "And risk civil war within both our realms?" Talia shook her head. "We need leverage first." A sound from the corridor silenced them. Leon instinctively moved in front of Thalia as the library door slid open. General Hayes and Commander Rax entered together, their momentary surprise quickly masked. Ambassador Hayes said coldly, "The Confederation has been trying to reach you, Empress," Rax added. "The Council requests your presence." The conspirators stood before them, unaware they had been discovered. Leon felt Thalia's hand brush against his, a silent signal they had discussed. Continued the deception. General Leon nodded. "I was just explaining to the Empress why the mineral rights to the Kelder Belt are non-negotiable." And I was explaining, Thalia responded with perfectly feigned irritation. "Why such demands are unacceptable." The tension in the room eased slightly as both interlopers accepted the performance. After they departed with their respective leaders, Leon found a message encoded in his personal device. Dawn, Eastern Observatory. Come alone. When morning broke over the crystalline city, Leon found Thalia waiting at the abandoned observatory on the palace's eastern wing. Behind her, the twin suns created a spectacular prismatic effect through the crystal dome. "We have 12 hours, she said without preamble. "They're planning to sabotage the peace announcement." "How did you Varen is still loyal to me, not the consortium?" "She intercepted communications." Leon stepped closer. "We need to act now." "Yes." Thalia's expression softened. "But first, I need to know something. When this is over, when peace is secured, will your feelings change?" The question caught him off guard. They had never spoken of the growing connection between them, had never acknowledged what both felt. "My feelings aren't dependent on politics," he answered honestly. Thalia closed the distance between them, her hand reaching up to touch his face. "In my culture, to trust someone with your life is sacred. I've trusted you with the lives of my entire people." When their lips met, it was like worlds colliding, gentle, yet powerful. Crossing boundaries of species and politics and everything that should have kept them apart. Leon pulled her closer, feeling the warmth of her skin against his. The subtle difference in texture that reminded him of how impossible this should be. As they separated, Thalia's eyes held both vulnerability and determination. "Now," she said softly, "let's save our peoples from those who would sacrifice them for power." Leon nodded, his hands still entwined with hers. "And after that?" A smile curved her lips. "After that, Ambassador Mercer, we rewrite the stars." The plan was dangerous, but necessary. Leon would return to the Confederation vessel under the pretense of retrieving critical documents, while Thalia would convene her most trusted advisors. They would strike simultaneously, exposing the conspiracy before the sabotage could be executed. As Leon's shuttle departed Nelox Prime, he gazed back at the crystalline spires growing smaller in the viewport. Somewhere among them was Thalia, preparing for her part in their desperate gambit. The memory of her touch lingered like a phantom sensation against his skin. "Admiral." Voss greeted him aboard the Confederation flagship with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ambassador Mercer. Unexpected to see you return before the treaty signing." "Last-minute amendments," Leon explained smoothly. "The Empress is being surprisingly reasonable." "Is she?" General Hayes emerged from the command deck. "Strange, considering our intelligence suggests she's mobilizing her fleet." Leon maintained his composure, despite the sudden chill in his blood. "That's not possible. I've seen the deployment schedules myself. Have you?" Hayes gestured to a display showing Nilaxian warships moving into formation. "Or has she been feeding you exactly what you wanted to see?" The evidence was damning and completely fabricated. Leon recognized the tactical display as footage from military exercises conducted months ago. Someone had altered the timestamps. "This is a misunderstanding," he insisted. "Contact the Empress directly. Communications have been severed," Admiral Voss interrupted. "By the Nilaxians." Leon felt the trap closing around him. "General, we're on the verge of a historic peace. Don't throw that away based on manipulated intelligence." "The only manipulation," Hayes replied coldly, "has been of you, Ambassador. Security, escort Mr. Mercer to his quarters. His diplomatic credentials are suspended pending investigation for treason." As guards led him away, Leon caught a glimpse of a transmission being received. Commander Rax's face, briefly visible on a secure channel. The conspiracy ran deeper than they had imagined, in his locked quarters. Leon worked frantically to bypass the communication blocks. After 3 failed attempts, he accessed an emergency channel using credentials Thalia had provided. "The Confederation is moving to attack," he transmitted in Nilaxian code. "Hayes and Rax working together?" Evidence fabricated. The response came almost immediately. "Empress detained by Security Council. Accused of conspiring with humans. Execution scheduled after declaration of renewed hostilities." Leon's world collapsed around him. Their enemies had anticipated their every move. Without thinking twice, he activated the emergency beacon hidden in his diplomatic insignia device Thalia had given him as a last resort. Within minutes, alarms blared throughout the Confederation vessel. A small Niloxian stealth ship had bypassed defenses and docked at an emergency airlock. Security teams mobilized, but they were looking in the wrong place. Varen, Alia's loyal bodyguard, appeared at his door, disabling the lock with practiced efficiency. "You came for me?" Leon asked in disbelief as they hurried through service corridors. "The Empress commanded it," Varen replied grimly. "Her last order before they took her." As they reached the stealth ship, General Hayes appeared at the far end of the corridor, weapon raised. "I should have known you'd run to your alien lover," he spat. "This isn't about Thalia and me," Leon replied. "This is about you and Rax profiting from a war that's killing millions." "It's about survival," Hayes countered. "Species purity. Something you've clearly forgotten." All shot rang out. Leon braced for impact, but it was Hayes who collapsed, revealing Admiral Voss behind him, her weapons still raised. "I've seen the evidence you were gathering," she said quickly. "Go. Save the Empress. I'll handle things here." The stealth ship detached from the Confederation vessel. Racing toward Nilox Prime, where the crystal towers now reflected the ominous glow of warship engines gathering in orbit. "We're too late," Varen murmured as they approached. "The war fleet has mobilized." "No," Leon countered, accessing the communication array. "We still have one card to play." He broadcast on all frequencies. To both Nilaxian and human ships, the encrypted files they had gathered, proof of the conspiracy, the fabricated intelligence, the profit motives. Most importantly, he broadcast the peace terms he and Thalia had secretly finalized. Terms that benefited both civilizations. "The question isn't whether we can trust each other's species," he concluded. "It's whether we can trust those who have been leading us into destruction for their own gain." As they slipped through Nilaxian defenses toward the capital, uncertainty hung between them like a physical presence. Had their desperate gamble worked, or were they flying into oblivion? Dawn broke over Nilox Prime, bathing the crystal spires in golden light that belied the tension gripping the city. Leon and Varen moved through shadow passages beneath the Imperial Palace, ancient tunnels known only to the Royal Guard. "The execution chamber is ahead," Varen whispered. 6 guards. Automated defense systems. Leon checked the small disruptor pistol Varen had provided. "Any word from Admiral Voss?" Communications remained scrambled. "We're on our own." They paused at a junction where the passage opened into a larger ceremonial hall. Through a crystalline panel, Leon could see Commander Rax addressing assembled Nilaxian officials, his voice carrying through the thin barrier. "The human deception is complete. Their fleet advances even as we speak. The Empress's collaboration leaves us no choice but to install emergency leadership." Leon's heart stopped when he saw Thalia, restrained by energy fields at the center of the chamber. Even in captivity, she maintained her regal bearing, her eyes defiant. Now, Varen hissed, activating a small device that plunged the chamber into darkness. They struck swiftly. Varen neutralized the guards with practiced efficiency, while Leon disabled the restraint controls. As the emergency lights flickered on, he reached Thalia, their hands clasping with desperate strength. "You came back," she breathed. "Always," he replied. Rax's voice cut through their moment. How touching. The traitor and her human pet, together for execution. Surrounded by armed guards, their situation appeared hopeless. But then, a voice echoed through the chamber's communication system. "This is Admiral Voss of the Confederation fleet. Commander Rax, Your conspiracy has been exposed. Stand down immediately." Simultaneously, a holographic projection materialized the evidence Leon and Thalia had gathered, displaying for all assembled officials. "Lies," Rax shouted. But uncertainty had already crept into the faces around him. The chamber doors burst open as Nilaxian royal guards entered, led by a commander loyal to Thalia. "The fleet stands with the Empress," she announced. What followed was not the bloodbath Leon had feared, but something more remarkable. As Rax and his conspirators were detained, military channels reported that both Nilaxian and human fleets had stood down, refusing orders to engage. "They're listening," Thalia realized, her voice filled with wonder. Both sides. Hours later in the Imperial broadcast chamber, Thalia and Leon stood side by side before representatives of both civilizations. The peace accord they had crafted together was displayed for all to see. "Today marks not an ending, but a beginning." Thalia addressed the assembly, her voice carrying 2 billions across both realms. "For generations, we have viewed our differences as barriers. Today, we recognize them as strengths." Leon stepped forward. "The conspiracy that nearly destroyed us thrived on fear and separation. Our future depends on connection and understanding." As the formal signing concluded, cheers erupted from the assembly. The impossible had happened, peace brokered, not despite their differences, but because 2 individuals had dared to see beyond them. Later, as twin moons rose over the imperial gardens, Leon and Thalia found a moment of quiet amidst the celebrations. "The Confederation has offered me an unprecedented position," Leon said. "Permanent ambassador to Nilex." Thalia's lips curved into a smile. "A diplomatic solution." "Not entirely diplomatic," he murmured, drawing her close. "My reasons for staying have little to do with politics." Her hand traced the contour of his face. "My advisors are scandalized, you know. An empress and a human. And what does the Empress think?" Dahlia's eyes, those remarkable violet orbs that had first captivated him, held both vulnerability and certainty. "The Empress thinks that some traditions are worth breaking, some boundaries worth crossing." Their lips met under the alien sky. 2 beings from worlds that had nearly destroyed each other, now creating something new, a connection that defied history, biology, and expectation. "They'll never understand," Leon whispered against her skin. Thalia's response was both a promise and a challenge. "Then we'll show them. One day at a time, 1 year at a time, we'll show them what becomes possible when fear gives way to love." Around them, the crystal city gleamed with celebration lights, reflecting like countless stars. Above, the actual stars burned in patterns that had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. But they had never before witnessed this, a human and an Nilaxian queen, rewriting the future with their impossible bond. For the first time in centuries, both worlds looked to the stars, not with fear of what might come from them, but with hope for what they might discover together in the private chambers of the Imperial Palace. As night deepened around them, Leon and Thalia discovered each other with wonder and tenderness, mapping the similarities and differences between their forms, finding in each other's touch a language that transcended species and spoke directly to the heart. "For you," Thalia whispered against his shoulder, "I would rewrite every star." "For you," Leon replied, holding her close, as if she might dissolve into the night, "I already have."